variety pack. Food and friends with Canada's best. From east to west, there and back. Eat North Variety Pack. 'Cause variety's the spice of life.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Eat North Variety Pack. The show happens every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, make sure you do that below. We have tons of great episodes coming up throughout the year, and we're so excited, and we hope that you tune in for them. But we have an amazing show tonight. We have Bruno from Great Canadian Baking Show. We also have singer Mariya Stokes. So let's bring on my two co-hosts to get things started, Mairlyn Smith and Carmen Cheng. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
You know what? I felt like this was going to be a special show tonight, so I actually put on pants. You can't see, but I feel like I've really dressed up for the occasion. And Mairlyn, as always, loving the new hair. It's really great. But, you know, every day I see you sipping tea. I see you sipping tea on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, everywhere. And it made me think, do you ever cook with tea? Because I find that I love cooking with tea at home quite often. Earl Grey actually is one of my favorite flavors, and I love to infuse it in many different things.
Yeah, it's really funny. We talked about this before. I'm a real purist. And so, you know, I like tea in a teacup, although this isn't tea right now. Anyway, but I don't like, I don't like flavored tea ice creams. I don't. So the answer is no. The only thing I've actually put it in is a martini. So I put,
I get it.
I really tried, but I was always disappointed.
That's sad.
Wow. I love tea. It's almost exclusively the drink I drink other than booze. But I also love it in food. My dad's a baker. I think I've talked about that before. And so we do bake with tea a lot, like matcha, hojicha, even Earl Grey. I like the Asian tea smoked duck and tea steeped eggs too. Those are always really good.
I'm going to let you in a little secret of mine is I love Lapsang Souchong tea. It's a black tea that's smoked, so it's really, really intense. I'm not sure if either of you have had it before, but I always say if I was ever on a cooking show, that would be my secret ingredient I would bring, because if you grind it up and add it to essentially any dish, it adds a really pronounced smoky flavor immediately, and I feel like it's a really cool trick.
It's true. So I don't know about you two, but I felt so tired this week. It feels like the pandemic has been so slow. And then all of a sudden this week, it's like everything happening all at once. We have Galentine's, we have Lunar New Year, which is huge for my family. Mm-hmm. We have Family Day coming up. There's like Cabana Sucre this weekend. But are you two doing anything this weekend to join in any of the celebrations?
Well, I think you left out the elephant in the room and the fact that it's minus 40 in Calgary. So I feel like that's also something that's happening that's not super ideal. But on that note, I think Cabana Sucre is, I pronounced that terribly. I'm sure Bruno can correct me when he's back on the show in a bit. But that's something that I look forward to in the winter. And, Festival de Voyageur in Winnipeg that I mentioned last week as well is a really fun winter festival. So those are things I would normally really look forward to when I could travel. Now, we can't travel, so we can't experience those things as easily. But I think, Carmen, you'll agree that in Calgary, we're lucky enough to have a restaurant, Dandy Brewing Company, that's doing a Sugar Shack themed dinner package this week. So I think that's pretty cool.
That is. How about you, Mayor?
Off really boring because, Scott and I, we celebrate Valentine's Day the day after. February the 16th, the 15th is our Valentine's Day. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, everything sort of blends in. I mean, our big highlight today was we went to Home Depot and picked up filters at curbside. So, yeah, I got nothing.
Well, right after this, I'm supposed to actually be on a Zoom call with my parents because today is Lunar New Year Eve. And it's actually the day in Chinese cultures where families are supposed to eat together to signify that you're coming together and staying connected throughout the year. So.
I'm sure that'll be nice. I'm sure not what you're used to normally for this holiday, but last year when I was traveling in Vietnam, I was there when it was Tet, and Tet is this, a New Year's celebration, of course, but it's almost 2 weeks long. It feels like it never ends, and people are always celebrating. You see them in the streets and sharing meals together, and it's really, really amazing. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen in Vietnam this year because things are obviously a little bit different.
Okay, so continuing on with the Debbie Downer, aka Mairlyn. So my stove has been broken for like a really long time. So first of all, the oven went. And so I got a toaster oven, and that's okay, sort of. You can't really bake a lot of things in it because it burns the crap out of everything. But anyway, and then I had 2 elements went, so then I had just the 2 back elements, and then no elements. So I'm losing my mind. I've got a hot plate, I have a microwave, I have a crock pot, and I have I call it my easy bake oven. But I cannot. It's making me nuts, and I keep pretending everything's fine, but I'm losing my mind. Have you ever had anything that's broken in your kitchen that made you just go, "Oh, I'm going to I'm losing it"? Like that ever happened?
It sounds like you've gone back to like college years. I say that when I first moved to Calgary, out of college, the first place that I rented only had a hot plate. But I think, having been newly independent, I was still learning my own processes, so it didn't feel like it was that big of a deal, although I didn't have an oven, couldn't bake anything, couldn't do much. And so I was pretty happy when I moved out of that place after 4 or 5 months.
On a quick tangent, I think I would enjoy going out for drinks with the college years Mairlyn Smith, for sure.
Me too.
Oh, I was making my.
I actually, now we're really on a tangent, but at that time in your life, were you as into food as you are now?
Me? Oh yeah. Oh, I've been cooking since I was 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like with my mom. Yeah. And, honestly, my mother wasn't the greatest cook. And so, I got to play more, and it's so, yeah, it's always been, I always knew I wanted to cook. I used to play Getting Married, Miss Canada, a cooking show, and School Teacher. And I've done all those. So it's
some more than once. There you go. For me, I don't. This is something that I've had break in my kitchen, but I say this a lot. I don't bake very often, so I think setting the stage for a fun conversation in a few minutes here. But I would often try and bake things without the proper equipment. Without having, electric whisk to help whisk certain things, and doing lots of things by hand. And I think you can attest, even just whipping cream by hand is very, very difficult. So I feel like any sort of baking recipe that requires more than just a quick whip of a hand or like a stir together is a lot of work without the proper tools.
For sure.
So I think that is the perfect segue to introduce our first guest. First, before we bring Bruno Feldeisen on, we are going to show a little teaser from the new season of the Great Canadian Baking Show, which is a really, really fun competition series that airs on CBC each year. So let's have a little peek of that.
Yes. Will you marry me?
Oh my goodness.
Ooh.
Yum, yum, yum.
Please. Oh.
That is so good.
Wow. Woo. The Great Canadian Baking Show
There it is.
starts February 14th on CBC and CBC Gem.
Chef Bruno Feldeisen, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
So as the show now moves into the 5th season, you've been one of the few constants on the show. They've had a few different hosts come in and out and whatnot. So what's it been like for you to watch the show progress over the years?
Personally, I feel more comfortable. I'm having more fun. I mean, season 1 was, I wouldn't say a struggle, but you watch Shit Creeks, and then 6 months later, you're sitting next to Dan Levy doing the show, and you're like pitching yourself every 5 minutes to see if it's real or not. So I was a bit like frozen, I feel. And over the seasons, I just became more comfortable into my role as a judge. And right now, we're having a good time. It's the same team that shoot every season. So we're just like a bunch of crazy kids going around and eating cakes and having a fun time. So, I think they're all different. All the judges, all the hosts are different. They all bring something different to the table. But it is, for me, a great, amazing experience.
Absolutely. And so one thing, I think a lot of people do talk about this, one thing that sets the Great Canadian Baking Show apart from other competition series is that between contestants, it's not really that competitive. So why do you think the show has that approach, and why do you think it sort of adds to the appeal of it?
I think it comes back to the core of survival. So, I do both cooking and baking. cooking at the core, it's about survival. You go hunt, fish, harvest, and it's all designed to feed your family and yourself. Baking is different. You do a cake to share, to celebrate, to give away. So the approach is way different. You don't need to push somebody on the side to catch that fish or to bake the cake. So I think at the core, it's all about giving something to somebody else and to celebrate. So when you have this into consideration, there is less competition. I think it's more nurturing and more of, let's have a good time together.
I love that.
Yeah, so speaking about that, I want to find out a bit more around the process of judging. And when you taste something, have you ever had a dish that was like so bad that you still had to keep a straight face on the camera? And how do you do that?
No, I mean, I knock on wood, everything tastes pretty good. And sometimes it's so difficult to differentiate between the top and the bottom. And, they come to the competition well prepared. All of them have great skills. I mean, I'm not part of the choosing process, so I don't know how they are selected. But when they, I'm always in awe and I'm always surprised how well they do. And sometimes there is not much between the top and the bottom. It comes down to technique, to texture, to, 5 more minutes in the oven, that's too much. But I never had, sometimes it can be a bit too salty, can be a bit waxy, but nothing I would not eat. I mean, I had to say I eat every single cakes, and sometimes I just go back to get the leftover. So, I do gain about 10 to 15 pounds after we do the shooting. So I'm back on running and exercising, but it's a lot of calories, a lot of cakes.
That's good to know. So it's as good as we see on TV.
Yeah, definitely. And believe me, even when we do the technical, I'm like, it's no way they're going to make it. It's no way they're going to succeed. And then I show up in a room and here they are, 10 bakers creating something,
Yeah. So you've been in the pastry world for a long time, chef, and I think you've seen a lot of talent grow and develop over the years. I think with shows like yours and with social media, a lot of younger folks who are just coming up through the ranks or who are thinking about becoming pastry chefs get a bit of exposure. So what sort of advice would you give to, let's say, a student right now who's like, I might want to be a pastry chef one day?
So, I always I always give the truth. I say it's a difficult field. It's not a welcoming field for a lot of people. The whole kitchen in general, if you want to work in a kitchen, it's not a welcoming. It's not driven by diversity. It's still a white guy-driven industry. It's changing. Some cities is better than others. But for a young person, I'm like, do it. It's great. It's probably one of the last field where you don't need a degree to do well. I mean, I left school when I was 15. I don't have a high school degree. And I think it's one of the last fields where nobody asks you for a degree. Nobody asks you for 4 years in college. But on the other hand, it's not always welcoming. If you're a woman going into pastry or in a kitchen, you end up being, sent to the pantry or making desserts. You're gonna have to fight hard, but once you overcome this hurdle, it's great. I mean, my journey has been fantastic, and if you can blend travel, you can meet great people, but sometimes I meet people who are just discouraged. They just went to work in the wrong kitchen, and it's very sad. It is changing a little, but we still have a long way to go.
Sure. You brought up a really good point before when you said that you weren't a part of how they choose the contestants. How did you become the host? Was there an audition process? Did they approach you?
I got a call one day and I'm like, I don't know, you sure you want to talk to me? And it's not like I aspire to be on TV or, I do like it. You get hooked to it. I always thrive into creative environment. So, being on a TV set, it's very exciting. But then they asked me to fly to Toronto to do a testing. So I'm like, sure, I go. Then I show up in the studio and there is like 30 guys applying for the show. So I look around and there was a good friend of mine with me and we look at each other and basically we say, what a waste of time they are never going to pick me because the other guys were like hipsters, tattoos all over, tall blue eyes, some different accents, and and just a waste of time. And then we did the on-camera training, on-camera chemistry testing, and then I get a call next day and say, can you come back? We want to talk to you. So it kind of bit of an accidental, but maybe having a double chin helped. I don't know.
I'm an actor too, and I think that sometimes when it happens, when you don't think you're going to get it, your actual real self comes out. And so you were probably so authentic that people think, oh, we want that guy. So
yeah, and people laugh when I say that, but I'm a very introverted, shy person by nature. So, but when I go on set, I feel, and I told the makers too. I say, look, guys, you are given a space and moment that's very unique. So make the best of it. You don't care if you lose, if you go home after the first episode. That's not important. What's important is to embrace that special moment. And even as a judge, I feel totally so grateful for just the experience. And, you leave and you feel like a rock star, but emotionally it's a bit difficult too. You do the show, you get excited. And then when you leave, it's hard to accept that it's over. You have to fly home. And so you get into a blues. Your mood is kind of a bit down for like 2 to 3 weeks. And then life is back to normal. But, we are all looking forward to the next seasons. And hopefully we're going to be shooting in a few months. And so it's kind of a roller coaster. But it's all about that embracing the moment. I think it's very critical to have such a beautiful time.
Great advice.
One thing that I really love about the show is the illustrator Kenna Barnes, who we've had on the show before. She does such an amazing job of really capturing how a contestant or a competitor describes the dessert they're going to make. I wonder, how did you react the first time you saw those illustrations come to life? Because obviously you film the show first and then she does them after. So watching an episode where she just really, again, brings such imagination to the show, I think it's a really unique.
So I never saw the drawing until I saw the first episode. Right. So she's on set. She's like part of the team. She looks, she takes notes, and then it's like, I'm a big fan of cartoons or drawing. I think it's a craft, and almost actually it's an art on its own.
Absolutely.
And it creates something very magical. I think it captures the moment. It's a bit how do you say? It's like
whimsical.
Whimsical. Here it is.
No, I think she does a great job. And so the new season premieres on Sunday night. I'm very excited to watch the first episode. Is there any sort of, obviously there's new additions in terms of new co-hosts for the show, but is there something that viewers can really look forward to with this new season?
I think the every season is different, and every season you're gonna have Baker that brings something so unique, so different, that even myself in 30-year career I've never seen before. And again this year you will see stuff like you couldn't believe it could be done.
Well, we can't wait to watch. I know what I'll be doing on Sunday night, and maybe I will finally find some inspiration to become a better baker, although it seems highly unlikely.
You can do it. Really.
I appreciate that you believe in me, but I'll have to get there myself. Anyway, Bruno Feldeisen, thank you so much for chatting with us today. It was a great conversation. We're looking forward to Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye. Take care.
That was a great combo. I really do love that show so much. Everything I see on there, and I think they do a really good job of casting really high caliber home bakers. So I don't think you have someone that appears weaker than another. I do think that everything that they put out in general is really amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of the show too, and I love to hear the dance one. Because you and I are both Schitt's Creek fans.
Yes.
But I got to tell you, I loved his story about the process, how he was host. So he's like, oh, I'm never going to get this. And so then, yes,
Sure.
Yeah, well, life is mysterious at times, but obviously working out well for him. And anyone out there, if they aren't following Bruno on Instagram, definitely make a point of doing that and just kind of staying up to date with what's happening on the show. But again, great conversation. And now we're going to segue into our musical guest. Mariya Stokes is going to be the co-host of the 10th Annual Country Music Alberta Awards happening on February 28th via YouTube Live. And she's going to perform a song for us. Then we're going to chat a bit about her co-hosting duties and what else she has on the go for this year. Oh, and she also is our theme songwriter and performer, actually. All around pure talent. Anyway, Mariah, take it away.
All right. Hey, everybody. This is an unreleased song. It's called Break My Heart, and it goes like this. It's also might be coming out next month.
Leather jacket, leaning on the bar with your slick back hair. Probably play guitar like your whiskey neat and your Marlboro Red. James Dean, back from the dead. Oh, you're trouble, and I wanna know more. You're something I haven't had before. I'm catching vibes, baby. I can see that you're wild. By your sideways smile, break my heart, baby. I dare you to try. Come on and do your worst tonight. I said, break my heart, baby. I wanna be on your body like that pin-up tattoo. You're not the kind of guy that I'm used to, but I could be a Bonnie and you could be Clyde. Take me to your Harley and let's ride. Well, I want you, but I'm not your honey. I'll give you a run for your money. Baby, you're bad news and I should probably beware. I don't care. Break my heart, baby. I dare you to try and break my heart, baby. Oh, 'cause I know what I want. So come on and do your worst tonight. I said, break my heart, baby. You're bad for beautiful, baby, that's what I like. Dangerous, devilish, damn, let's roll this joint so you can break my heart. Oh, I want you, babe. I said, break my heart, baby. I dare you to try and break my heart, baby. Whoa, 'cause I know what I want, so come on and do your worst tonight. I said, break my heart, baby. Ooh, yeah.
That song's called Break My Heart.
Amazing. Amazing job, Mariya Stokes. When is that song coming out?
It's coming out in March. We don't have an exact date yet, but we're just working on servicing it and getting all the album artwork finished up right now. So the Eat North Variety Pack audience is one of the first groups of people that have heard it.
Well, aren't we lucky? That is a very, very catchy song. I can't wait to hear the fully produced version. But I think we should talk about your co-hosting duties for the 10th Annual Country Music Alberta Awards happening at the end of the month. That's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I am so excited for the Country Music Alberta Awards this year. It's been a really interesting and strange year, specifically, I think, for the music industry, the entertainment industry, and obviously your guys' industry as well. And so it's been really, really special, kind of coming together at the end of 2020 to celebrate all the things that everyone managed to do, even in this crazy, weird environment. And it's a really huge honor, especially to host with George Canyon, who I've looked up to forever.
Yeah, that must be so exciting.
Totally.
So how did you get the auspicious job of being co-hosted? Like, you have to name and suggest yourself, or did somebody just go, hey, you know what, let's go with Mariah? How did it work?
I'm not exactly sure how they came up with my name. I think a big part of it was the fact that even though I didn't play a ton of shows this year, I did do a lot of hosting. So the King Eddie had their Homegrown Country Music Alberta series that I hosted every Saturday live. I did 2 live streams a week for like 3 or 4 months. And another big part of it is usually our awards show is actually coupled with a conference. And so there's over 50 performance slots for people that are playing at the Fan Village and folks that are playing the open mic night. And so there just wasn't a lot of opportunity for nominees to perform within the show. I think there's about 7 performance slots. And so they were trying to give all the nominees as much of an opportunity as they could to be part of the show. And somehow they came upon my name for hosting. And of course I said yes.
Yes.
So what can viewers expect in the online show? What does the format look like? What's going to be different? What's going to be exciting?
Yeah, okay, so the biggest difference this year, I think, is that instead of doing live in-person performances, it's all going to be virtual. So the structure of the show is a little bit different. I can't say too much about that yet because I don't think it's all been announced. But one of the most interesting things I think about the show is the heart and soul that the performers are putting into their performances, and especially because, again, we haven't had a lot of opportunity to perform live. So the live pieces of the show where the performances are actually happening is going to be exceptional. And also it was interesting, George and I's energy, because he's so established and so respected and so well known. And he's not a super serious guy when you get to know him, but he seems very like he's almost like a dad. Do you know what I mean? And so when I met him, it was interesting because I'm like, hey, I'm still kind of green and fresh and excited to be here. And so I think those two energies really contrast each other interestingly. But I'll let you guys make up your opinions once you actually see the show.
Can't wait to watch it. I would argue that you probably have more live stream experience than George this whole pandemic. So.
Well, maybe live stream, but he's been hosting forever. He's got about something like 30 years on stage. And so for me, also live streaming, I think is a little bit different, simply because you get to interact with people right away. The CMAB awards are actually pre-filmed. So your reaction is literally the camera crew who's socially distancing in the room, and that's it, and the producer. So it's a little bit different. He's an absolute pro, and I learned a lot just by watching him. But I do appreciate you saying that, Dan.
And now you are up again for the Horizon Female Artist of the Year, which you won last year. And, many artists have won that before you, including people like Lindsay L., Tennille Towns. What does that award do for someone like you in this industry, that's trying to break through to the next level?
It's actually, it's really cool. So one of the big things that the Country Music Alberta Association did this year was actually split the female and male artist categories and actually the single of the year categories into 2 different sections. So we have Horizon, and then we have just female or male artist of the year. And what it does is it actually makes the awards a lot more inclusive to folks like me who are just starting out and starting to come up in the industry, while still including the Tennille Towns and the Lindsay L's who initially won this award but are now winning male and female artists. And what it really means to me is that I have an industry full of people who are acknowledging the work that everyone else is doing. And it's really, really nice to be honored and acknowledged as the Horizon Female Artist, as well as have something to work towards and look forward to, which is just female artists. And in order to hit that category, you have to have, I think, like a top 40 charting single in Canada. So yeah, having those 2 different categories actually has made it so that we can have, some people like George Canyon on the show, folks like, well, there's a few other ones that I can't really say yet that are a little bit, let's just say they're not living in Canada anymore, as well as newer artists like Brandon Lorenzo, who's fabulous, and it'll be his first year performing at the awards, and Ryan Lindsay, who was Rising Star last year, but this year is nominated for Horizon Male as well as Album of the Year and a bunch of other things.
Great. Well, we are very much looking forward to tuning in on February 28th. And again, thank you for creating our theme song. It's really become something that's really, brought us together as co-hosts, and it gets us in a good mood before we start the show and when we end the show.
Well, thank you for asking me. That was actually co-written and co-produced by Devin Cooper as well. So shout out to him, and thanks for loving it and using it. It was such a fun project.
Tons of fun. And on that note, that brings us to the end of another episode of Eat North Variety Pack. Thank you so much, Mariah, for being on the show with us tonight, and for my lovely co-hosts, Mairlyn Smith, Carmen Cheng. We will see you all next Thursday at 7 p.m.
Happy New Year.
Eat North Variety Pack. Food and friends with Canada's best. From east to west, there and back. Eat North Variety Pack. 'Cause variety's the spice of life.